Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name is Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Hello, how are you? Now this week we're going to be looking at a particular person's birth chart, and what prompted it was I was working with a client this week whose mother has Sun in Leo and Moon in Scorpio, and we know the date of birth, we don't know the time of birth, don't even know location of this particular lady. But what I thought was interesting, which set me on the path for today's episode, was what happens if someone has their Sun in Leo in the 8th house and Moon in Scorpio. Now, this particular client's mother, I have no idea what time of day she was born, and neither does the client. And when we're talking about British people, because this was a British situation, the chances of finding out times are pretty much slim. But then went to, as you know, my little favourite website is Astro.com, and their ADB search tool, whatever the heck it's called. Hold on. It's called the search tool Astro-Dienst. So when you're on Astro.com, you go to all about astrology. It's called the ADB search tool. That's right. So it's the astrological database search tool. Using that, you can put anything you want. If you're a subscriber, you won't get access to that if you're using the free version. So I just need to point that out. And I searched for, using the equal house, because you can even use the house system that you like. I searched for Sun in Leo, Moon in Scorpio, Sun in the 8th house, because I just wanted to know how many people have ever become famous that have had that combo. And you know, there was only a few. There were 30 people from the year 1900 that are Sun, Leo, in the 8th house with Moon in Scorpio. And I thought, ooh, how interesting is that? So I then found a lady called Beverly Craven, and we're going to cover her chart today. And first of all, I was thinking, oh, well, she seems British and she's born in 1963. Surely I've heard of her. Well, I hadn't heard the name, but I zoomed over to YouTube and started listening to a few songs of hers, and I realised that, oh, actually, her number one song I had heard. And I liked it, and I still like it, and it's a jolly good song, and the song is called Promise Me. It did become a wildly best-sellery thing, or whatever you call it, charted and went to the top and stuff. It's a jolly, jolly nice song, la. So let's look at Beverly's chart. So I will start with her here. Here we go. So as I say, she's well, let me just read you a bit of blurb from Wikipedia. Wikipedia says, because where else can we go if we didn't have Wikipedia? So Beverly Craven was born 28th July 1963, is a British singer-songwriter, best known for her 1991 UK hit single, Promise Me. She's recorded 6 studio albums, including collaborative album Woman to Woman with Judy Tsuki and Julia Fordham. She was born in Colombo in Ceylon, now called Sri Lanka, in July 1963, while her British father was working there for Kodak. He later worked as an investment advisor. Within 2 years, the family had relocated to rural Buckinghamshire to a bungalow on a 5-acre plot where her younger twin sisters were born. Craven began taking piano lessons at the age of 7, encouraged by her music teacher mother, who was a classical violinist and who had performed at the Royal Albert Hall. Upon leaving school, Craven attended art college. She also performed with various bands in London pubs and was writing songs. She was also an accomplished swimmer during her teens and competed in several national swimming competitions around the UK, but we're not covering it because of that. She didn't buy her first pop record until she was 15. At 18, she left home and worked in various jobs, living in a South London bedsit. Having failed to find any sympathetic musicians with whom to play, at the age of 22, she decided to strike out on her own as a piano-playing singer-songwriter. Following a brief stint touring with soul singer Bobby Womack, who tried to sign her to his record label. She recorded her first set of demos and attracted the attention of Go West's manager, John Glover. And then she got more famous and travelled the world and did her thing. So we'll come a bit more onto her career, etc. in a minute. Let's just study her birth chart. Now, if you want to see the chart, it's on the show notes, and the address to get there is astromary.libsyn.com, libsyn.com. So that's where everything's hosted. You might not be listening to it from there. Actually, quite a lot of you do, but you might be listening to it on Spotify or whatever. And if you're on YouTube, I apologise if I could say it profusely, but buzz over to the podcast host and you'll see the charts there. I cannot upload them to YouTube, so that's the end of that. If I was, which I don't, but if I was doing one of those things that other people do where they have the audio and the video, and you see some boring video of me sat by the microphone, I possibly could add the charts to some sort of screenshot on the video, but I haven't got the capability to do that, or the brain cells all the time, or the inclination either. So you're going to have to go to the podcast hosting place to see the show notes, and there you can see the charts. So here we have using equal house. We have a Sagittarius Ascendant that is 15 degrees and 58 minutes. House 1 and 2 are empty. In house 3 we've got Saturn at blah blah degrees. What Saturn is at 20 degrees. We've got Chiron snunk into there as well in the sign of Pisces retrograde. That's in the 3rd. We've got nothing in the 4th. We've got Jupiter in Aries, the ruling planet of the chart. Jupiter in Aries in the 5th. The 6th and the 7th are empty. The 8th contains the Sun, because I was looking for Sun in Leo, Moon in Scorpio, and Sun in the 8th house. So her Sun is very definitely in the 8th house, an equal house. And she's also got Venus in Cancer, and the true node, the North node, is in her 8th house as well. Mercury's in the 9th in Leo. Also there is, because she was born in 1963, she's got the Pluto-Uranus conjunction. So there's wads of people born in the early 60s that had that. So it lasted for a while, about 3 or 4, possibly 5 years, don't quote me. She's got MC in Virgo, which is conjunct her Pluto. Pluto, don't forget, is the ruling planet to her moon, and is conjunct Uranus, so we've got emotional. In the 10th, because that's where the MC is, in Virgo, we've also got Mars 0 degrees into Libra. And then in the 11th house of friendships, we've got the moon in Scorpio, and we've got Neptune in Scorpio as well. Now, the moon isn't conjunct Neptune, with a particular lady who prompted this episode. Her mother has moon conjunct Neptune in Scorpio, and unfortunately her mother still has, we don't know because they're not in contact, a drink problem. So that's not unheard of. When Neptune conjuncts the moon in whatever sign, there can be, and it's not so much an alcohol problem. The moon wants to escape to a different dimension, and inverted commas, the average person can do that quite easily by drugs and alcohol. So the houses that are empty in equals are 12, 1, 2, 4, 6 and 7. Everything else has got planets in it, and it's a seesaw chart with 8 planets opposite 2. Now I have also done Beverly's part of fortune, which I will just tell you is, where did I see him? Yeah, he's conjunct the Chiron at 14 degrees in the 3rd house of communication. So natal Chiron is 14 degrees retrograde in the sign of Pisces in the 3rd, and is exactly slam bang bank bonk conjunct the part of fortune in Pisces in the 3rd house of communication. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So we've got somebody, when they've got a Sagittarius ascendant, they're quite happy to do some international travel, which she did, because she went abroad. I think she lived in Los Angeles for a while. She worked with producers, and I don't know where she got the money from, but maybe it was the recording company, don't know. But she worked with various different people, producers. She wrote all of the songs on her first album. And so she was in America. So that's the Sagittarius ascendant. Quite happy to travel when you've got a Sagittarius ascendant. Not to say they travel all the time, but travelling is easier with a Sagittarius ascendant. Now, the ruler to the chart is Jupiter. The natal Jupiter is in the fifth house, romance, babies, etc. Fifth house is there. She does have 3 daughters, but having Jupiter in the 5th isn't an indicator of that. But it does mean that because of whatever it is she creates, and her children will be part of that creativity, they're pretty important to her. And they are, because there's a little quote that I'll read for you from a newspaper article. So we've got, as far as cardinal fixed mutable goes, we've got 3 cardinal. We have 5 fixed and 2 mutable planets. That's the Pluto and Uranus in the sign of Virgo. So not much mutability. The ascendant's mutable, but that's not a planet. Fixed, we've got 3 planets. Fire, we've got 3 planets. Earth, we've got 2. Air, we've got 2, and water, we've got 3 planets. The other things are North Node and Chiron. So her chart's quite nicely balanced. It's a teeny bit low in Earth. And 2 of her Earth houses, so the Earth houses, so she's low in Earth planets. She's only got Pluto and Uranus, and they're generational. Lucky sausage, they're not retrograde. The only planet she's got retrograde is her Saturn. Her Earth houses, which is the 2nd, 6th and 10th. 2nd and 6th are empty. The 10th has Mars and the MC in it. So she's really, it's sort of typical fireside thing, not particularly grounded. Not that that matters. If you're creative, it doesn't matter at all. Now, interestingly, in her, in the little sort of triangle at the bottom of the chart that lets us know which planets are aspecting whatever, she has predominantly squares. She only has 1 sextile. So this is personal planets now, so all the way from the Sun to Mars. The only thing that happens is we've got Sun square Moon, Moon square Venus, Venus square Jupiter, Mercury opposition Saturn, and then we've got Jupiter squares to the North Node. Not that matters too much, but there's not a vast amount of aspects going on in this chart. The nice fluffy ones, which are the ones that you would concentrate on, obviously, if you had a client with this same chart, it'd be Sun sextile to Mars. So the Sun is the energy, so the Sun is who you are, Mars is the energy planet with a nice sextile aspect between them, and her Mars is in Libra in her 10th house. Then her career, that comes easily at some point. So if she puts her energy, her physical energy into her career. And as far as I know, I don't think she's touring at the moment. We're 2025. The last thing she wrote on her own website was 2023. So I don't know, I couldn't get any further updated with what she's up to. And I think she took a bit of a break, but we'll come into why she took the breaks. So there's not a vast amount of aspects going on between the planets. Now you have to remember, if someone doesn't have a lot of aspects in their chart, their internal dialogue that they've got is near enough non-existent. And if all they have, which she has predominantly squares, then that internal dialogue is going to be flipping negative. It's going to be, why did I do that? Why didn't I do the other? Yeah. She has got Moon sextile to Uranus. I don't know that that's a particularly useful sextile to have. But anyway, now I thought it was interesting that she became famous. Now, Leos love fame, don't get me wrong. There has never been born a Leo that doesn't like some sort of fame or notoriety in some respect, okay? They absolutely thrive on it, and it'd be unfair to expect them not to. That's the sign of that, because the sun is rulership, Leo, the sun, let's get out there, do stuff. But if you've got, which she has, the sun in the 8th, there's going to be a bit of a sort of discord between being famous, you know. So the Leo side of it enjoys it, but the 8th house just doesn't. And her Venus is located there in her north node. Now, luckily, her Mercury's in the 9th, so she's probably happier talking internationally or philosophically, which I'll give you some philosophical quotes of hers, rather than being in the spotlight. But Leo loves being in the spotlight. But I just thought it was so interesting when I was doing the search on Astro Databank ADBT search tool, that there were so few people on there, and they only get listed on there if you're reasonably famous. And I swear it was either 20 or 30 people, which is just minuscule, absolutely minuscule for the data that I've put in there. I was expecting at least 50, 60, maybe even 100, because I was going from 1900 to the present day. I thought, ooh, what a small amount. And that is because when the sun is in the 8th, it doesn't really want to be, inverted commas, because I'm saying this to clients, the lead singer of the band. But she's not in a band. That's where the difference is. She has toured with other women, but she's a solo singer-songwriter, and she mostly, I don't know if she still does it, but plays the piano. So the famous single that she released, Promise Me, is all the videos are of her playing the piano, and that is what she's playing in the track. Yeah, with me? Great. So we've got some dates of things that happened, and annoyingly, Wikipedia didn't have the exact dates. I was like, that's just rubbish. So we've got the date of her first album and the transits for it. Now, keeping in mind, what's the ruler to her chart? Sagittarius Ascendant? Correct. Jupiter. Okay. Now, Jupiter is very evident, amazingly evident, in the things that have, inverted commas, happened to her that are public. Okay. Now, I wasn't going to be emailing and asking her questions and stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of things that aren't public. There's quite a mix of things, because some of the dates on some websites are different to others, because I looked at various different newspaper articles and interviews and things that she's given, even her own website. Goodness me, the dates on there, they're not accurate. So yeah, I had to take a sort of toss a coin to find out what was best. So we've got the date of her first album coming out. All we know is that it's July 1990. So first album gets released, which, don't forget, she's been to America to do it all, and she's been signed by Epic Records. And Jupiter is in July 1990 when this happened. Jupiter is now in the sign of Cancer, and it's in her 8th house, and it's exactly conjunct to her natal north node. So her north node is 20 degrees Cancer and transiting Jupiter on, and I've done the 1st of July. I doubt very much it was released on the 1st of July. It was whatever, I'm sure the new musical thing's ever been on the 1st of the month, but what do I know? But transiting Jupiter is 19 degrees on the 1st, 19 degrees and 18 minutes. So it wouldn't have taken very long for it to get exactly conjunct to her north node. And the north node's in Cancer in the 8th house. So I'd say to somebody that's got north node Cancer in the 8th that your life purpose is something to do with your family, and keep it secret and make an investment or something. And she releases an album, and on that same month, transiting Chiron is also conjuncting her north node, which is crazy, really, actually. The other transit that's happening is transiting Pluto is now in Scorpio and is conjunct her natal Neptune, but that's the 11th house, and it's retrograde in July. So the only thing that I could see that, well, I mean, it's definitely positive, Pluto conjuncting your natal Venus, 8th house. It did so one track on there, The Promise Me, which is the single that was released, did become a bestseller, but not when the album was first released, which was in 1990. The single didn't hit the charts in the UK and then get really big until April 91, which is the following year. So yay, we've got the transits for that. And again, I have no idea what the exact date, because I cannot believe that Wikipedia hasn't got it. Somebody somewhere must have a copy of the single and the date that's on the flapping thing. But anyway, I wasn't going to go too far. I didn't have enough time. So when the single gets re-released in the UK, and on the Promise Me singles page on Wikipedia, it says that it was re-released in March 1990. And my brain's just frying at this point now, because we've been told that the album is in July 1990 and it was re-released and then became successful in 91. How could it be March 1990 that's it's re-released? And I was in such a Wikipedia mood at that, but I definitely was going to sign in and correct it, but I don't have what to correct it to. All I know is what happens is the following year, April 91, it now hits the charts in the UK. And I remember listening to it. Now, I don't remember listening to it in 1990. I know what I was doing in 1991. I do remember it. It really was a jolly catchy song and a nice one. She's got a lovely, lovely voice. So when it finally hits the charts, Jupiter transiting is now 3 degrees Leo, and her sun sign is 4 degrees Leo. So she hit the big time literally under a Jupiter transit. Now, this was not her first Jupiter transit. So if 1991, she's born in the 60s, she's in her, or coming up for her 30s. I think she had her Saturn return. Saturn, yeah, she hasn't quite had a Saturn return. She's coming up for a Saturn return. So she's having a Jupiter transit, not even a Jupiter return, because her natal Jupiter is in Aries in her 5th house. But this is a transiting Jupiter. If I said Jupiter return a minute ago, ignore that. What I meant was Jupiter transiting past her sun sign. But she will have had some Jupiter returns, but there was no returning going on when she got lucky as a Jupiter transit, because it's the ruling planet to her chart. I just want to make that point, that when you're looking at transits and things in people's charts, it really, really helps if you know their ascendant, you know their chart ruler, because nothing can happen to that person without their chart ruler being involved in some way. Trust me on that. So on the 1st of April 91, it wasn't released then, Pluto's moved away from her Neptune now. Uranus and Neptune are conjunct. Now, so she's born during a Pluto-Uranus conjunction, and she gets big during a Neptune-Uranus conjunction. Now, I watched a little clip from Chris Brennan the other day, and he was interviewing, or had on his show, by the microphone, as some chappie who'd, I can't remember if he'd written a book about it, but he was talking that if you were born with a particular aspect strong, like I've got Sun Moon square, that when the sun and the moon square all the time, something would be going on for you. And I was thinking, oh, blimey, that can't be the case in myself. It doesn't happen every bloody month. But if you've got a strong, like a conjunction, in her case, she's got Pluto-Uranus conjunction, and something big happens to her when there's another conjunction with Uranus, and this time it's Neptune. So this definitely is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So I was thinking, I've only mentioned it today, but I'll sort of stick it in the back burner and maybe come back next week a bit more about it. So it's not the planets involved, but it's the aspect that they create. And when those aspects are recreated, then something can happen in your chart, which is different from an like just a passing traffic passing transit thing. Anyway, Jupiter was the thing that prompted it, but I thought it was interesting that Uranus and Neptune are now conjunct in the sign of Capricorn, which is opposition. I think they're in, they're 13 and 16 degrees, which is opposition to her North Node. So they've helped. Yeah. So that's Promise Me, which is a beautiful single. I am going to put a link to it on the show notes so you can listen to it. It's on YouTube. I mean, it is an absolutely lovely, lovely song. Okay. Now, things then take a bit of a downward spiral for her. So it's not all lovely and fluffy. And this is where now the sun and moon square start to, what's the word I want to use? Start to become a thing for her. So she's managed to get where she wants to go. She's been successful at touring and all the rest of it. And then she gets diagnosed with cancer. And she doesn't just get diagnosed once, she gets diagnosed twice, which is not fun. Okay, so we've got the date for so this is her Wikipedia page now, because she doesn't mention it on her personal page. Obviously she doesn't even want to think about it because it must be so traumatic. So she had 3 daughters. So after the birth of her first daughter, the couple married in December 91. So she marries a chap called Colin Campsey. I don't know if he was in the band Tears for Fears, but it says here after meeting backstage at a Tears for Fears concert, I think he must have been in the band. Oh God, let me check. Colin Campsey is a British singer and songwriter who was a member of the pop band The Quick and Giant Steps. Okay, so he wasn't in the band. Backstage met him. Had a daughter, got married in 94, had 3 daughters, lived in Kilburn before moving to Buckinghamshire in 2006, blah, 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 blah. And then it says, so that's the with the royalties of Promise Me in 2006, she bought the house. And then it says in the next sentence, she was first diagnosed with cancer in 2005. Now, if I'm writing a report, I'd be putting cancer 2005, buy the family home in 2006, wouldn't you? But don't get me editing. It's so wanted to go and change. That's the wrong order. So I've got a date. I haven't got a date. Sorry, I haven't got a date. All I've got is a year. I thought, something must be showing up in a chart. So what I've done is done the 1st of June, because that's sort of halfway through the year, and 2005 to see what's going on. She's had Pluto going over Ascendant, but that's way out of orb now. Saturn is conjunct her natal Venus. So she hits big when transiting Jupiter hits her Venus, and then she gets Cancer when Saturn conjuncts her natal Venus. Now that's not a signature for breast cancer, so don't get worried, I've got Saturn transiting my Venus. It doesn't work like that in astrology. There'd have to be other things going on as well. Transiting Uranus is conjunct her natal Chiron. So we're talking about wounds and Uranus's sudden happenings, and Uranus is now in Pisces, and its transiting Uranus is 10 degrees and her natal Chiron and part of Fortune of 14 degrees. Third house communication. Transiting Neptune is 17 degrees Aquarius, and her natal Saturn is 20 degrees retrograde. And Saturn is retrograding. Sorry, Neptune, transiting Neptune is retrograding. But the biggie here is Saturn. Okay, so Saturn's a heavy-duty planet. Trust me, it's not friendly. And also, we've got to keep in mind Jupiter. Jupiter is now in Libra and is directly opposition her natal Jupiter. So, on the one hand, we've got the difficulty of Saturn, and on the other, we've got the joy of Jupiter transiting, but opposition to natal Jupiter. And her natal Jupiter forms a square to her natal Venus in Cancer in the 8th house. So it's not particularly a helpful transit. Obviously it doesn't last forever. No transit does. Then she gets her second diagnosis of cancer, and then she has a full mastectomy. So the first one, she just had an op. as far as I know. And the second one, she had a full mastectomy. And that's in the year 2018. But I think it was 2014, her sister died of breast cancer. She had a cousin that died of breast cancer. And so she opted for full surgery. And so we've got, it is mentioned that her second cancer is August 2018. So I've just used the first because I don't know the exact date. The sun's returning, Mercury's retrograde on her natal Mercury. Venus transiting is now in Virgo, not far from MC, but transiting Jupiter is exactly conjunct to her natal Neptune. But we already had a Neptune-y thing going on the first time of the cancer diagnosis. And now transiting Neptune is exactly conjunct. So that's transiting Neptune is 16 degrees and it's conjuncting on the other side her natal Chiron and part of Fortune. Transiting Pluto is 19 degrees opposition to her north node. Now it's pretty difficult to have any sort of cancer diagnosis and for life to be fluffy. Okay, there are lots of questions of what's it all about, why am I here, etc. And the other thing that was happening for her astrologically is transiting Uranus was 2 degrees into the sign of Taurus, because this isn't so long ago, this is 2018, just before the pandemic. And natally her sun sign's 4 degrees. So Uranus bolt out of the blue, square to the sun, second diagnosis, not fun. Now, I've got a little article where she's been interviewed by a reporter, and this is for the Buckingham Free Press because she lives in Buckinghamshire, because it starts, following her second brush with cancer, Buckinghamshire-based singer Beverly Craven spoke about the experience she had. After double mastectomy and 5 months of chemotherapy, a long period of rest and recuperation might be in order, but Beverly Craven is defiantly embarking on a tour. Okay, now I didn't look at the astrology of that because I was just like, what? I got through it this time, and bugger it, I'm not, it doesn't say that, it says B and then dash, but I don't think I'm, what's the word? Am I going to get into trouble saying that? Too bad. I'm not going to let it beat me this time, the 55-year-old singer said. It's the second time mum of 3 Craven, who still remembered her mega hit debut single Promise Me, had been diagnosed with breast cancer. The disease also claimed the lives of her sister and cousin. Craven was first diagnosed in 2005 with a tumour in her left breast, but after a lumpectomy and radiotherapy she was eventually given the all clear, which I think was in 2008. In August 2018, though, a new cancer was found in her right breast. My first diagnosis in 2005 hit me very hard psychologically, and it took me 2 years to stop feeling angry, frightened and sad. I honestly thought I was going to die, recalls Craven, talking at her Buckinghamshire home. It's been easier to be brave second time round. The shock of it doesn't touch you in the same way. Thankfully, the operation's been a success, and my consultants told me I should be confident about a positive outcome, which is great. This is such a Leo talking, yeah? She adds, I found it easier to detach myself from what I had to go through and see it as a purely physical thing. So she's on this tour, and she's got the goal of resuming the Woman to Woman tour. She said, here the singer talks about living for the moment, how her daughters have helped her through cancer and the positive outcomes the experience has brought. So the woman, I think it's a woman interviewing her. It is written by a bloke called Matt. I beg your pardon. Sorry, Matt. Asking about the tour. It's the fun and excitement to the end of a long tunnel of treatment. As well as the mastectomy, I had lymph nodes removed from my right arm. The chemo has been horrible to go through. I almost gave it up a month in, but throughout it all I focused on getting fit enough to be with the girls, so children, the friend, big one, and perform. Being on the road with them is like a month-long party. My hair hasn't grown back yet after the chemo, but I'm not going to wear a wig. My boyfriend Mike says I look beautiful without it and silly with it, so I'll just wear big earrings and high heels. I'm sure after 5 minutes people won't even notice I'm bald. The show's a really emotional and nostalgic night with lots of laughter as well as tears. I'm a bit of a comedian and joker, which is a nice contrast to some of the music, which is quite sad and poignant. So then Matt asks her, how do you feel when you got the second cancer diagnosis? And she replies, ever since I had cancer the first time, I've lived for the last 13 years expecting and being in fear of it happening again. It's common in my family. My younger sister Kathy, 44, died of it 5 years ago, and I've also lost a cousin, Sarah, 46, and my aunt's had it but survived. With that history, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for it. I don't want reconstructive surgery because it would mean more surgery to go through. Anyway, I don't miss my boobs, if I'm honest. I breastfed all my daughters and they did a great job, but then they became a liability and had to go. And I listened to that in my head because obviously I'm not listening to it, I'm reading it. And I thought, oh, that's such a Moon and Scorpio thing. But anyway, I really hope my being open about my experience can help other women going through this. So he asks her, how have you stayed positive throughout this ordeal? I watched my sister go through this cancer, and that gave me balls of steel, really. Kathy was only 44 with 3 little boys and died 5 years ago. I miss her terribly anyway, and even more when I was going through this because she would have known what I was going through. I think about her every single day. Once life has really taken a swing at you and taken your younger sister away, it almost feels like nothing can hurt you in the same way again, although I don't want to tempt fate by saying that. Anyway, just sitting around thinking, I've had my breasts removed, I haven't got any hair, and whatever's happened to my femininity leads nowhere good. I tried to see it as a process I've had to go through and a transition, Moon in Scorpio, to being well again. So then he asks if you're worried about your daughters, because they're Molly, 26, Brenna, 23, and Connie, 21. My aunt's currently undergoing testing to see if there are other genes which can be identified that make us prone to cancer. We won't know. We don't know. We know we don't have the BRCA1 or 2 genes, which are strongly associated with cancers. My daughters, I'm guessing, have around a 50-50 chance of getting it, but they will always be vigilant and may take action in the future to help reduce their risk. My hope is that science progresses and has answers before it becomes an issue for them, and if it happens, that there are more targeted therapies, so hopefully they won't have to endure what I've gone through. Then he asks her, what does your track Promise Me mean to you? She says, I thank God for that song, which has become a standard. If it wasn't for Promise Me, I might not have a career. I was living in a tiny bedsit and it only took 3 days to write. I didn't even want my record company to release it because I didn't think it was very good. Shows what I know about a successful track. I've written a new track for the Woman to Woman album and I'm loving writing again, so who knows if I'll come up with something equal to Promise Me. Then he asks her, what got you through the tough times? And she says, my fabulous daughters, who I love to bits and have been so supportive and reassured me that I look very trendy with my bald head, my loving boyfriend and amazing friends. We've all really bonded in this time of adversity, and that's an amazing positive thing which has come out of this experience. It makes you all pull together. It's also the advice I was once given. Nothing stays the same. It's constantly changing, and whatever's happening, it won't be that way forever. When you're going through a lot of shit, it's helpful to know that it's temporary. She also says that going through the cancer has given her a different positive perspective. And then she says, these days I try to look after myself. I love my bathroom. Bathroom in the UK is a place where the bath is, not where the toilet is, which I've made like a spa where I can retreat and think. And I go to sleep with a smile on my face and wake up with a spring in my step, because I think my life is about as perfect as it can ever be, and I'm properly content. I consider myself to be incredibly fortunate despite 2 bouts of cancer. So many people go through cancer and other illnesses and worse. So that article was written on the 4th of June 2019, so that's just before the pandemic. So she, as far as we know, took a positive attitude towards things, which is very much a Leo thing. But you could sort of detect with the sun and the moon square and the sun in the 8th that there were certain things that she was going to reply to and certain things that she wasn't. I thought, yeah. So she's sort of like, because she's a performer anyway, you're not going to get everything out of someone with Sun in the 8th. So today we've been talking about the Sun in Leo and the Moon in Scorpio, where natally the Sun is in the 8th, and there's a Sagittarius Ascendant, which was prompted by a discussion with a client and her own mother having Sun in Leo and Moon in Scorpio, but this person's mother had Moon conjunct Neptune and had a nightmare that caused my client to have a nightmare upbringing. So I sort of wanted to see, is there a way to have that combo of Sun in Leo, Moon in Scorpio, but adding to it by shoving it into the 8th house? How is that person? And I would say, in my professional opinion as an astrologer, that does make someone who is super, super strong, because 8th house people are, generally speaking, quite, I'm not saying they can put up with a lot of adversity, but it's a sort of a deeper house for a planet to be. It's deeper, deeper, deeper. You're going deeper into hypnosis type thing. And the Moon in Scorpio, people with Moon in Scorpio, they're just going to do it, whatever it is. The feelings, they're not going to, generally speaking, okay, people generally speaking with Moon in Scorpio won't hold back how they feel. But I do think, as an astrologer and also an alternative therapist, that anyone that's born with Sun and Moon square needs to understand that square and not subject the Sun and the Moon to the negativity that can exist because of it, and the continual working against one's own best interests. Like, I can understand going on tour where you've got a cancer diagnosis might take your mind off it, but surely it might be a good idea to also relax into the treatment that you're having, but no judgment here. So if you're a Leo with Moon in Scorpio, get in contact. Did what Beverly said, did that resonate with you? Have you got Sun in the 8th? How has life been for you? Have you got Moon in Scorpio? Get in contact. It's Mary at maryenglish.co.uk. And I need to add, if you haven't booked your New Year reading and you're not subscribed to my newsletter list, then if you pop over to my website, maryenglish.com, there is a 10% discount on there. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it on there, because I tend to change my mind quite rapidly when I do things. It's on there at the moment, and it's Sunday the 7th of December. But if you go over there, there is a 10% discount code on there. You will have to sacrifice an email address for me to give you that. And you'll be subscribed to the newsletter, and you can unsubscribe if you want to, but just to let you know that's on there. But if you haven't booked your New Year's reading, can you please do that soon, because next year I'm going to be cutting down the availability of my calendar, because I'm coming towards not total retirement, but I'm stopping my homeopathic practice. So therefore those appointments that were available, they don't exist anymore, so I've had to change the way my calendar is. Consequently, there are less appointments, just full stop, less appointments, because as much as I love my job, I don't want to be working as many hours as I am. So just to let you know that if you want to book for the new year, then buzz over there ASAP because once all the appointments are gone, I'm not going to be doing any concessions and doing them on my day off or on a Sunday. Okay, so there is a limit to me and my availability, etc. So if you'd like to learn astrology with me, again, ping over to the website maryenglish.com or send me an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk. And I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye-bye now.